Welcome to English with Jimmy. Today's subject, an English wedding story. Richard and Rachel used to be high school sweethearts. They both graduated from law school and started working in a law firm. Richard invited Rachel for dinner in a local restaurant and traditionally got down on one knee and presented her with a diamond ring and asked her the famous question, "Will you marry me?" Rachel was thrilled and instantly accepted his marriage proposal. Everyone in the restaurant was clapping and cheering and congratulating them. Rachel and Richard told their families about their intention to tie the knot. Both families were happy. Richard's close friend Gary said to him, "So, you finally popped up the question and decided to conjugate with Rachel?" Richard replied, "Yes." And then Gary asked him, "When is the big day?" Richard replied, "Next month." Gary said to Richard, "I have been cohabiting with my girlfriend Sarah for a year now, and I think it's about time I made an honest woman of her. I think I will like the state of wedlock." Richard and Rachel announced their engagement. Now Rachel is Richard's fiancée and Richard is Rachel's fiancé. As both of them are solicitors, Rachel joked with Richard and said, "Should we sign a prenuptial agreement?" Richard could not stop laughing and said, "Certainly not. We love each other immensely." Richard and Rachel's families started planning the wedding. Most weddings in the United Kingdom take the form of either a civil ceremony conducted at the registry office or a traditional white wedding held in a church. Richard and Rachel chose a traditional church white wedding service. The planning was quite complex. First, the church must be booked, then the reception venue has to be chosen, flowers arranged, and so on. Also, Richard and Rachel had to draw up a guest list, send out invitation to all of them. Rachel, as the bride, chose her close friends Sally and Sandy as bridesmaids. They traditionally accompany the bride in the church. Richard, as the bridegroom, chose Gary as his best man, who accompanies him to the church ceremony. Rachel bought a dazzling wedding dress, and Richard bought a tuxedo suit with a bow tie. He looked so dapper wearing it. Richard and Rachel arranged to go to the Maldives Islands for the honeymoon to consummate the marriage. Also, Richard and Rachel were busy compiling a wedding list, which is a list of presents that guests can choose to buy the couple. Richard and Rachel also selected the wedding rings from a local jeweler. On the big day, the groom Richard and best man Gary arrived at the church first, and then the guests' family and friends started to arrive. Richard was a bit nervous, but Gary assured him it's natural to have pre-wedding nerves. Before leaving to the church, Sally, Rachel's bridesmaid, according to traditions, gave her something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, and a sixpence in her shoe. Last to arrive at the church was the bride Rachel. She looked radiant in her lovely white dress with a long train, a material from the dress that covers the floor behind her. Rachel's face was covered with a veil. She was carrying a bouquet of flowers and accompanied by her bridesmaids in matching dresses. Rachel's father walked her down the aisle until they reached the priest, vicar, pastor, who was standing before the altar. The church organ was playing the wedding march. All the guests rose to their feet to watch the procession. Once Rachel and her father reached the altar, Rachel joined Richard, and they both stood together, and the service began. The service lasted for about half an hour and contained readings, extracts from the Bible, and hymns, religious songs. The priest started with the words, "Dearly beloved, we gathered here today to join this man and this woman in matrimony." Then he asked if there are any objections to the marriage. Someone can speak or forever hold their peace. Then Richard and Rachel exchanged their wedding vows and promised that they, as bride and groom, will love each other until death do them part, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, in sickness and in good health. At the end of the service, Richard and Rachel exchanged rings, and the priest proclaimed them man and wife, and told Richard the groom, "You may kiss your bride." The guests started to leave the church, while Richard and Rachel were signing the marriage register, and the church bells, wedding bells, started ringing. Outside the church, the guests threw confetti, small pieces of colored papers, on them, and the photographer started taking various formal photographs. After that, everyone headed for the reception venue, and before the formal lunch was served, various speeches were said. First, Rachel's father gave a speech. Then, Gary, as the best man, gave a speech, which was funny, about Richard's shyness from asking Rachel to marry him. Then, Richard and Rachel each made a speech to thank everyone for coming to congratulate them. The wedding cake was beautiful, 6 tier. The food was a succulent and delicious Sunday roast. Then a live band played some lovely songs, and everyone danced with joy and happiness. At the end of the reception, Rachel turned her back to all the unmarried girls in the guests and threw her bouquet of flowers. And guess who caught it? It was Sarah, Gary's girlfriend. After that, the happy couple, Richard and Rachel, left to the airport to fly for their honeymoon. Congratulations to Richard and Rachel. Sweetheart, a person with whom someone is having a romantic relationship. Got down on one knee to propose to someone for marriage, traditionally done by kneeling on one knee while presenting an engagement ring. Diamond ring. diamond ring has become a symbol of sincere love that lasts forever. Will you marry me? Traditional question from the groom to the bride. Marriage proposal. When a man asks a woman to marry him. Tie the knot means to get married. Pop the question means to propose marriage. Conjugate means to be a couple or to be married. Cohabiting, living together and have a sexual relationship without being married. Made an honest woman of her means to marry her. Wedlock, the state of being married. Fiancé, a woman to whom someone is engaged to be married. Fiancé, a man to whom someone is engaged to be married. Prenuptial agreement, an agreement made by a couple before they marry concerning the ownership of their respective assets should the marriage fail. Registry office, a place where birth, death, and marriage are officially recorded and where you can get officially married without a religious ceremony. Church wedding, a wedding ceremony performed in a church and having a religious rather than civil content. Guest list, a list of family and friends who will attend the wedding. Bridesmaid, a girl or woman, usually one of several, who accompanies a bride on her wedding day. Best man, a male friend or relative chosen by a bridegroom to assist him at his wedding. White wedding dress. Tuxedo. Honeymoon, a holiday spent together by a newly married couple. Consummate the marriage, the first act of sexual intercourse after marriage between a husband and wife. Wedding list, a list of presents that guests can choose to buy the couple. Wedding rings. Wedding rings represent the unbreakable bond of lifelong love and commitment between two married people. The big day means a person's wedding day. Pre-wedding nerves, hesitation from either the bride or groom to get married. Veil, a piece of fine material worn by the bride to protect or conceal the face. Bouquet of flowers. Walking the bride down the aisle. One of the most memorable moments of any wedding's day is when the bride walks down the aisle with a close relative, father or brother or uncle. Priest, vicar, pastor, an ordained minister of the Catholic, Orthodox or Anglican Church, authorized to perform certain rites and administer certain sacraments. The altar, the table in a Christian church at which the bread and wine are consecrated in communion service. Wedding march. A piece of march music played at the entrance of the bride or the exit of the couple at a wedding. Matrimony, the state of being married. Wedding vows, the promises a couple make to each other in a marriage ceremony. Marriage register. Marriage registration certificate is an official testimony which states that two people are married. Wedding bells. Church bells ringing to celebrate a wedding. Confetti. Small pieces of colored papers. Wedding cake. A cake prepared for wedding, normally 3 tiers or 6 tiers. The bride's bouquet of flowers. Ancient Greeks and Romans and Egyptians carried fragrant herbs and spices to ward off bad luck during weddings. The flowers symbolized a new beginning and brought hopes of fertility, happiness, and fidelity.